Another weakness in kettlebell training is horizontal pushing. There's a lot of vertical pushing, but horizontal pushing, you have to usually throw some kind of push-up or something. But I find that the double floor press is actually pretty taxing for the entire upper chest and tricep area. Notice how Shannon keeps the back arched, glutes engaged. She does a slight rotation with the hands, squeezing at the top. She's also keeping the lats engaged to help stabilize. The range of motion isn't great. You could do this on a bench, but hey, in a pinch, you're out working out outside, just lay down in the grass. You can get a really phenomenal upper chest, upper rib cage workout with the double floor press. Notice how she turns to the side for safety. You want to be very careful the way you load those kettlebells so you don't injure your shoulders in getting them into position. It's always turn to the side to both load and unload. The double floor press. A nice alternative to the double floor press is the alternating floor press. Notice how Shannon turns to her side to protect the rotator cuff muscles, holds it in tight. And here she's going to roll to the side. This is very similar to a Iranian wrestling exercise done in the Zarqaneh. They do it with big wooden shields. And that's basically where I got the idea. So she's just basically rolling side to side, getting a lot of pec, a lot of lat, a lot of tricep. And notice she's keeping the head up and engaging the abdominals as she's rolling, using her hips and her thighs. So the legs are active in this drill. It's really a whole body exercise. And definitely can be a really good addition to get that horizontal pushing into the movement, which is so hard. She almost dumped them both at the same time. Never a good idea. Always roll from side to side. The alternating floor press. Another excellent horizontal push is the duosymmetric floor press. Here she presses both kettlebells up, keeping the glutes engaged, lats engaged. Notice how she holds one kettlebell in the contracted position, but she's not fully locking the elbow. She's leaving it about 15-degree bend. This forces those muscles to work the entire time statically. This is a great way to milk a lighter kettlebell. If you're forced, sometimes you don't have a big selection in weight. So by using this technique, you can make a light kettlebell seem really heavy. Plus, it's just a nice little alternative. Definitely works the stabilizers of the shoulder and the rib cage. I really like using all these different horizontal pushes. Good to alternate them. And it's a nice, refreshing change from just having to do push-ups all the time. There's certainly nothing wrong with working plenty of push-ups in your routine. But this gives you some ideas in how you can use your kettlebells for horizontal pushing. So, the duosymmetric floor press. Atlas push-ups on kettlebell handles are a phenomenal upper chest exercise and horizontal push. Notice that we're using a wooden box to elevate Scott's feet. This makes the push-up much, much harder. Also, Scott is activating the lats to protect the shoulders, and he's going down, so dropping the shoulder girdle slightly below the hands to really work the pectoral muscles. Much harder. If it's a little bit too difficult, you can lower the feet a little bit. Notice that the feet are about the same height as the kettlebell handle. In the first version, the feet were above the kettlebell handle. So it's still pretty tough. It's certainly tougher than doing it on the floor. And once again, he's really getting that nice stretch to the upper chest. Just be careful, keep the lats active, don't overstretch the shoulder capsule. If you're moving slowly, as Scott is, and I always advocate a slow speed of movement for all the strength work. So if it's a little bit too tough to elevate the feet, just put the feet in the floor. And because the hands are higher than the feet, it's actually slightly easier. But with the extra stretch at the bottom, you're still getting plenty of pectoral work. And you could also do descending sets, starting with the feet high, then the next set, the feet about even with the handles, and then the last set with the feet in the floor. And in some cases, you could even do a modified version. Some women, for example, may have to put the knees on the floor to do the positive part. But you can't beat the Atlas push-up on kettlebell handles. Another exercise that I pioneered was the crush push-up. There's a couple of different versions. The most difficult version is placing your hands on the side and crushing the kettlebell while you're doing the push-up. Wow, you got to try this to really appreciate the effect on the pectoral muscles. So Scott's hands literally are just squeezing on the side to keep him from falling. If that's too tough, you can place the heel of the hand partly on the top of the base of the kettlebell. Once again, to keep the wrist strain down to a minimum, you want your fingers pretty much pointing downward. And then for beginners, you can just place your hands on the side of the kettlebell. It's still pretty doggone tough. And this is an excellent horizontal push to activate those pectoral muscles. I really like kettlebells a lot, but you have to take steps to correct the imbalances caused by the kettlebell. And you have to add in, for sure, specific exercises for vertical pulling and horizontal pushing. The crush push-up. Horizontal pulling is also very important. For every push, you want to do a pull, both vertical and horizontal. This is a classic. Notice that Shannon's back is just slightly above parallel to the floor. She's taking a front stance on the tippy toes. Basically, it's the same position, the same hinge position that you would use for swings or deadlifts or anything else. Now she'll turn to the other side. One foot is beside the kettlebell. She steps back. Notice how the front shin is vertical. And she rows the kettlebell and squeezes the lat. The other hand is on the hip to make sure that she's not tilting or turning. And her shoulder girdle was nice and stable. So it's pretty much a lat bicep exercise. She's not turning. She's not twisting. She's keeping the spine in neutral position. Excellent way to balance out the horizontal pushes. And it's also a missing pattern in most traditional kettlebell lifts. The single arm row. The rows can also be done with 2 kettlebells at a time. Here Shannon's doing outside the legs. The kettlebell design here are the big competition style. And for smaller people, sometimes it's hard to fit the kettlebells between the legs, so it's perfectly permissible to do the rows outside the leg. Some people refer to these as suitcase rows. You could also use this stance and do 1 kettlebell at a time. But it's harder than it looks. With the kettlebells outside the leg, somehow it seems to make it tougher, and man, it's really a great lat exercise. Notice, too, her body is in the hinge position, the same kind of hinge that you would use for all the other kettlebell exercises that we do, cleans, swings, and snatches. So you don't use a different stance. You make use of the hinge for all pulling and rowing movements. The double kettlebell row outside the leg. A fantastic way to really milk a light kettlebell is doing it duosymmetrically. one arm is held in the position of full contraction while the other arm goes through normal range of motion. Notice Shannon is moving fairly slowly here, not using excessive momentum. Really excellent exercise for upper back. She's holding the spine, the neural spine, keeping the shoulders packed and not allowing the shoulder girdles to twist. And I really try to emphasize in all of the rowing type movement patterns, keeping with a normal hinge so that the shins always remain vertical and that you're sitting back. Same exact skill set that you use when you do swings and cleans. The duosymmetric row. An advanced row is the plank row. This is the plank row with one kettlebell. So if you're stuck with only one kettlebell, you can just use something to place your hand on and hold the plank. And every muscle from your toe to your chin is involved with this movement. It's an amazing whole body movement. And in some ways, you could actually consider this a horizontal push as well. And now Scott's going to change the other side. Here, we just rigged this up with some chairs we found in the studio and took the chair backs off. It looks kind of dangerous with the spiky things up. But I love this exercise. When I'm outdoors in nature, a lot of times I'll just find some rocks or a curb, and it's really hard to keep your body from rotating. So I also consider this, besides being a horizontal pull and lat exercise, I consider this an abdominal and core exercise too, or anti-rotation exercise. Every muscle in the body is engaged with this type of movement pattern. Scott's going to show you now another version, which is also very effective. So if you don't have 3 stools, you can always find boxes or crates or something. And elevating the feet just a little bit off the floor makes this exercise way harder. In the first exercise, Scott's feet were even with the supporting hand, which is really hard. Here they're slightly below the hand, which is a little bit easier, but not much. And once again, I consider this a real advanced row, and I do not consider this just a upper back exercise. This is an anti-rotation whole body exercise. You can also alternate the kettlebells if you wish. You can do a row on one side, row on the other side, or you can do all of the repetitions on one side, all the repetitions on the other side. But if you're looking for a really awesome horizontal pull, which also involves the entire body and the core, this is your baby right here. Turns to her side to protect the rotator cuff muscles, holds it in tight. And here she's going to roll to the side. This is very similar to a Iranian wrestling exercise done in the Zarqaneh. They do it with big wooden shields. And that's basically where I got the idea. So she's just basically rolling side to side, getting a lot of pec, a lot of lat, a lot of tricep, squeezing at the top. She's also keeping the lats engaged to help stabilize. The range of motion isn't great. You could do this on a bench, but hey, in a pinch, you're out working out outside, just lay down in the grass. You can get a really phenomenal upper chest, upper rib cage workout with the double floor press. Notice how another weakness in kettlebell training is horsey turns to the side for safety. You want to be very careful the way you load those kettlebells so you don't injure your shoulders in getting them into position. It's always turn to the side to both load and unload. The double floor press. A nice alternative to the double floor press is the alternating floor press. Notice how Shannon turns horizontal pushing. There's a lot of vertical pushing, but horizontal pushing, you have to usually throw some kind of push-up or something. But I find that the double floor press is actually pretty taxing for the entire upper chest and tricep area. Notice how Shannon keeps the back arched, glutes engaged. She does a slight rotation with the hands.